Welcome to the AI across the product lifecycle, a special edition with my friend Jonathan Girroir of TechSoft 3D. How you doing today, Jonathan?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing great. Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we've actually crossed each other numerous times this year already in trade shows and so forth. It's been great meeting you in person. TechSoft 3D has been quietly powering engineering software for decades. For those that only know the logo, what is the company about today?
Yeah, we are primarily a software development toolkit provider for the 3D engineering industry. So we have SDKs that provide data translation and visualization, simulation and analysis that power probably almost all of the independent software vendors out there in one way or another. We touch so many in our industry across the whole product life cycle. So from design to simulation to CAD, CAM, 3D printing, and then also in the building construction space. And we also have a small part of our company where we actually use those toolkits. We build end user products for visualization in the enterprise.
You're talking about the hoops, the pretty much the industry standard for visualization, right?
Yeah, yeah. People know we're the Hoops guys versus being TechSoft 3D is
Yeah.
Hoops is even a more recognizable brand. So that's our set of SDKs. But we also have the SpinFire brand. That's our engineering visualization tools for the enterprise, data translation, and AR and VR end user tools as well.
Awesome. Um, yeah, and it also has been a bit of a transition for you guys, right? Because you had one of the very famous people in the CAD world for a long time, Mr. Fritz, who stepped away, and but you guys have done a great job picking it up and keeping the ball rolling. In fact, you told me business is booming, so that's awesome.
Yeah, when you talk about the history of TechSoft 3D, we've been around for almost 30 years. We celebrate 30 years in November of this year. And in fact, we spun out of Autodesk. So though Ron is known as in the industry, originally Carl Bass, who became an executive at Autodesk, was
So that's
also an original hoops guy as well.
yeah, he's famous for saying PLM was useless, right?
Yeah,
Lived to
not saying
regret that
everything he
one, I
said was
think.
correct, but it is a recognizable name.
Yeah. So what trends are you seeing from your seat as a visualization guy in terms of trends across CAD, CAD, PLM manufacturing that are reshaping expectations of the customers?
Yeah, a number of different things. And so, one, a move to the cloud. A lot of people are like, what? Like that happened a decade ago. But in our industry, we kind of move slowly, especially some of the bigger players. And so that's still very topical is how do we move legacy applications to the cloud and become cloud enabled? Even simulation and analysis becoming cloud enabled, CAM being cloud enabled, CMM being cloud enabled, things that really were resistant to that initially. So we're seeing that, and then the build of hybrid architectures too. So cloud and desktop. So what workflows belong on the cloud? What still need to be on the desktop? And kind of what's the best choice for different workflows? So that's one. Um, we see a lot of data. So really at our core here at TechSoft, we're a data access and translation company. We have visualization on top of that. We have simulation uh, with that as well. But it really starts with data and the way in which people are interacting with data, sharing data, and moving data through workflows is becoming less file based and more API based. So as things move to the cloud, access to that data becomes not just file based, but really just holistically looking at how do I access this through a set of APIs. So we really are seeing a evolution, a revolution in that space. And then, of course, AI, right? We're going to talk about that quite a bit today. But with all of that data, how do we use that to make intelligent workflows and learn from connecting that to business information um, and extract value from that using some of the newer machine learning tools.
It's ironic you mentioned that because it seems that in my talks with some of the startups and customers, there also is even a way back to on-prem again because of the concerns on sovereignty and so forth. So we all had this big pendulum towards the cloud, and it's sort of starting to swing back a little bit, which is a bit interesting, right?
Yeah, and everything in between. So COVID definitely opened up a lot of workflows just because we
Mm,
had to be remote. And so that kind of was the last. That's what we needed to kind of move stuff to the cloud. On-prem is still absolutely needed to be supported, and private cloud and government cloud. It, there's a lot of different solutions on how to own your data and still maintain it, yet create this connected environment.
Um, well, speaking of workflow, so it feels like engineering software is becoming less about individual applications, more about connected workflows. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's about moving data from application to application. It's about like ecosystems and making sure you play within that ecosystem. And big vendors are trying to lock you in and build massive ecosystems where they have all of the tools that you need. But then everyone else is trying to figure out, how do I tap into that? How do I make it as seamless as possible? And so, yeah, over the years, just standard file formats that become richer, that allow you to have these integrations and these translations. Like that's definitely something that we're seeing. But then direct integrations through APIs, that is also really, really important, because you don't want to lose your data, you don't want to lose your work. And there's a lot of value in connected workflows for the whole product lifecycle. Yeah, absolutely.
And what capabilities do ISVs need today that were not even priorities, say, 5 years ago, other than AI,
Yeah.
agentic
Okay.
AI,
Yeah.
right?
Um, multi-CAD enablement is really what
Oh,
it comes
right.
down to. And so, like, not being able just to exchange a step file, but be able to read, like, let's get the Creo file or the NX file with all the PMI and the feature data and the feature tree and all the metadata and material information and kinematics. So just that real rich data access is important. And then being able to use it, right? So not just be able to bring the file in, but then make informed decisions on top of that.
And
And then
is that go ahead.
probably like unique IDs too, so that, like, if you're bringing your data through a series of steps, you can kind of track changes. And as you implement something and change it, you're able to implement that change as well. Like if you're doing a draft angle analysis, but then you change some of your geometry, all of your preparatory work can get reapplied. So those are really important as well.
And I suppose, especially in your case, it's also work horizontally in the organization, but it's vertically up and down the supply chain, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So what are the customers asking for the biggest improvements? What's the customer demand like? What are they asking TechSoft 3D?
You know, more data. I
Huh.
really is there's still a lot of vendors out there trying to keep their own little corner of the ecosystem. So I know in recent months we've added support for DGN file formats, making sure that you can just natively bring that data in, be able to visualize it and work with it seamlessly without having to convert it to a neutral format. Um, Speed, I mean, that is data. Our data is getting bigger every day. The way we acquire it, the way we model it, the way we visualize it, and computers are getting better, of course, but speed is always important. So that's the speed of load, speed of translation, speed of visualization, speed of interaction, speed of processing. So being able to continue to accelerate that, um, be able to parallelize the processing. So now, if everything's on the cloud, how do I actually make use of these parallel environments and renewed parallel environments, or on your desktop as well, or being able to accelerate on the graphics card? So I guess, like, rich data is something we continue to focus on, and then we just continue to focus on speed and to some extent visual fidelity. So um, photorealistic rendering, ray tracing is still something we see with some of the newer tools like Nano Banana. Like, we're able to push data there and get pretty good high end rendering
Oh, that's
from it.
cool.
But PBR, it's physically based rendering, is a slightly new standard for fast graphics for like high fidelity. So being able to support that. Um, and then, like, there's some new paradigms of file interoperability that we're looking at that are quite promising, like USD, universal screen
I
description.
was about to
That,
ask about OpenUSD.
yeah, like, that's really exciting because that came from Pixar, but now it's being adopted by Autodesk and Apple and Adobe and Trimble, and there's just a ton of momentum. And what
And
makes it so
Siemens and
everybody,
PTC.
yeah,
And you
Well,
saw this, the twin thread acquisition by, Aveva was particularly interesting about a month ago because that's what Andy Waycott had bet his entire company on was OpenUSD.
yeah, a lot of people are doing that, and it seems to be paying off, and we are as well. So we're heavily vested in that, and a member of OpenUSD, and trying to support that format and inform it. What makes it really exciting is it's like streamable, it's composable, it's extendable, it's very flexible, and because there's industry momentum around it, we're able to extend it. So they're creating their own BREP representation, but you can plug Parasolid data in there if you want to, because it's very extensible.
So let's move on to the recent announcements. So you can tell us all the wonderful stuff you guys been doing. And I know you've come to my trade shows and been able to talk about it. So can you talk about some of the more important initiatives that you've done recently? Walk through what was announced. Why did you announce it now?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing this year, 2026, we released officially Hoops AI, which is a framework for taking CAD data, 3D data, and being able to encode it, and be able to take it into machine learning algorithms. So it's a framework for doing that. We have some encoders that allow you to quickly get it into different frameworks for machine learning. We're also able to connect it to business information. So some of our more recent releases allow you to connect it to costing information and um, create informed business decisions around that. So we're all in to AI, and particularly what's really important about this is it's based on the 3D geometry. So it's not like a 2D representation that we're feeding into an algorithm, but we're actually looking at your topology and your 3D geometry. So we're the only company that's currently doing that and providing this as a toolkit that then can be built on top of. So we're trying to help all of our customers who are using our translation tools to be able to now take all of their data, encode it, and then start to use it in these new paradigms.
Well, this one's sort of off script, but I wonder what's your opinion on these text to CAD startups that are popping up like mushrooms, right? I think I read about a new one every
Yeah,
other week.
let's go. Let's go. I, you know, that's the holy grail, and a lot of people are trying to get to that. Um, we'll see. And I think what it comes down to is really good data, a good, what's made a lot of these predictive um, tools outside of our industry uh, work is because they have a large body of work that allows them to make these predictions. And so building on top of that, you need good data, and you need a fair amount of it. And so I'm curious to see the few that I've used are just kind of like let's see, and it's gonna take some time. What we're really interested in is accelerating existing workflows and making large libraries accessible, large libraries of 3D data accessible and navigable. So, for instance, if I have this widget that I'm an aerospace manufacturer, I might have designed it 5 times already. I have it in my library, but how do I find it? And how do I connect
Mhm.
it to business information? So it already has, let's say the FAA approval, and it's gone through a number of steps, and it has this analysis data, and we know how to build it, how to manufacture it, all the testing information. So if I'm able to take this part and find it and not have to re-engineer it, or find similar parts and be able to use those, that's incredibly valuable right now, and that's where we're trying to work in is part search and feature recognition. um, Text to CAD, would love to support that as well through our translation tools, being able to provide that to you. um, but right now we're just trying to bite off just smaller chunks of foundational approaches.
It's interesting the way you phrase that because it sounds similar to what a lot of the innovation that I'm seeing on the manufacturing side of the fence, where they're taking the IoT, the SCADA, the PLCs, and recontextualizing. So that's what you're saying. You're taking the 3D data and recontextualizing it in the PLM engineering context, basically,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
OpenUSD helps us do that, but also contextualize in the manufacturing context, which is what makes it unique. But I don't think those are the only announcements you've made, the AI ones. Weren't there some announcements around
Yeah, SpinFire. Yeah.
SpinFire, yeah.
We released a mobile viewer recently. We So like I mentioned, we supported DGN. Cellular volumes for simulation is huge. And
Yeah.
we talk about CAD and CAM, but simulation analysis is a bigger industry, dollar for dollar. And so making sure that we're able to visualize cellular volumes. So it's a way of which you can be looking at simulation results or pre-processing data. So making sure that in our graphics engines, we're supporting that. Um, we're starting to talk about a data hub, so that's really exciting. So that's kind of future looking later this year. So kind of a think of allowing your opening up your data throughout the engineering enterprise through a set of APIs and through a set of plugins and tools that sit on top of that. So there are like a number of things happening here at TechSoft. USD, we've been announcing the support for that. And then also later this year, there's another format for quality assurance and coordinate measuring. That's QIF, quality. I
Right.
forget what it stands for, but
Interface format or something.
yeah, and that's kind of like a very structured, powerful way of bringing all of your MBD data in, and then also including inspection results from a CMM machine, or how to
So
do inspection as well.
so what kinds of, like, specific customer problems, were you trying to address by some of these announcements? So there were particular things where people said, "You know, I really have this problem, and darn it, if TechSoft 3D could give me something."
Yeah, I mean, we went in a bunch of directions there, and so when we think about how do we invest at TechSoft, so the main thing is making sure that we're current, um, and in unlocking data throughout the enterprise for our customers. So we have about 700 different independent software vendors that are using our tools, and they need to be able to access CATIA, SolidWorks, Creo, NX data, 30 different file formats within their application. So we're multi-CAD enabling them, and a fair amount of our energy just goes into making sure that we maintain those translators. So that's a big thing. On top of that, we do look at where are our customers going when it comes to features and how do we support them in doing that. So new formats like USD and QIF and DGN, and then on top of that, like where is innovation happening at TechSoft? So that's Hoops AI, and that that's there's little things like I forget, like configurations in Creo, for instance, or multi-threading, CATIA file translation. So there's always these little things that we're trying to improve, but right now a lot of our R&D is just going into Hoops AI, as well as our data hub. So I guess those are the two major initiatives here at TechSoft, is making sure that we're ready for that final migration to the cloud, the opening up of data through APIs for MCPs, is really interesting to us, and then also just Hoops AI and being able to encode your CAD data.
So what, which of the announcements you mentioned had the biggest reaction from your partners?
Hoops AI.
Yeah,
I mean, just when they look, like, this is a small industry. How many independent software vendors are building 3D engineering um, applications? I mean, you know that better than we do.
123 about. Well, that's
Yeah,
just design intelligence, another 200
yeah.
if you get it.
But it's a small industry, right? And so we have about 700 different companies using one or more pieces of our technology. And so when I host a webinar, like, I'm excited to get 100 people there. Like, that's a good day for me, because how many software developers are doing that? But when we released Hoops AI, we saw we had to upgrade our Zoom webinar account.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so the response was great. We lead with that. And it opens doors. We're finding a lot of companies are like, they like the idea of AI. They're trying to figure out, everyone's trying to figure out, how do we appease our board or our investors, or how do we stay competitive? They don't quite know how. They might not have the internal experience with machine learning, but it intrigues them. And what we actually find is they might not be ready to implement machine learning algorithms, but they still need data translation, or
Yeah.
they still need graphics. And so even though it's interesting to them, we actually find that we start at the very base levels, like, all right, let's get you some high quality data access, and then we can start talking about other more complicated workflows and other toolkits on top of that.
And and some of these new capabilities, are they completely complementary to the current offering, or some of them or are you also sunsetting things along the way?
Uh, we have an ecosystem, so I think we like to talk about we have about 10 different SDKs that we make ourselves, and then we also partner with companies like Siemens and MachineWorks for their modeling kernels. So Siemens has Parasolid, MachineWorks has their Polygonica mesh modeling toolkit. So that ecosystem, everything kind of works with bridges and connected APIs, embeddings within them. Um, do we sunset things occasionally? Trying to think what's been sunset in the past. Um, maybe like we had a ray tracer that we're not actively pushing right now. But we haven't even sunset that. I'm trying to no, I we've consolidated. So we try to simplify our product offering actually. So we had a 3D PDF creation and kind of a file writing set of tools that's just been incorporated into Hoops Exchange now. That's our file access. So it's read write. So you can read CAD data in and publish a 3D PDF. So what tends to happen is we are in we build relationships with companies and they ship their products on top of our SDKs, and the life of those products are measured in decades. And so it's very hard for us to sunset
Yeah, of
technology.
course.
Maybe like the biggest sunset news is like we're not supporting Visual Studio 2015, for instance. Like, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Or if Apple's kind of if they sunset, let's OpenGL, for instance, then we try to respond to that. So Microsoft, so the big vendors, when they sunset a technology, we have to pivot, and those are
Sure.
really the big things that. And at the same time, like we still have to support.
Yeah,
Even
the
if they've
guys that have
sunset,
already
we
got it.
still have to support. So we try to be this real stable foundation with a long term partnership, and literally we have customers that work with us for decades, which is great to see.
That's awesome. Well, let's step into the heart of the debate, which we've already been touching around, but about AI. So everybody's obviously talking about it, but what are your customers? What are TechSoft customers really asking for today? What is their main ask for when they come to you and say we need AI?
Yeah, uh, they're still trying to define that. Like everyone seems to be building an agent for automating the UI within their application. But where we're finding some real value is connecting business information. So that could be procurement, costing, manufacturing, quoting, connecting that to the original CAD data, and focusing on geometry search and feature recognition are kind of like the big areas that we continue to see themes in this space.
And where do you think that AI is creating genuine new value inside traditional engineering workflows? Where do you think is the wedge that it's creating in there?
Where is it creating value? Automating rote tasks. I mean, that's absolutely true. And then providing insight into connecting the dots. Um, so, for instance, like just not knowing what you have available to you and being able to organize it in a meaningful way. So these parts catalogs, being able to bring some sense to them and organization to them as well.
And where do you think that we're overhyping it?
Everywhere.
Well,
I
specifically in
Yeah.
engineering and industry, what things do you think we've been talking about and you're just like, "Yeah, right, right, whatever."
I mean, I'm still text to CAD. I'm I mean, I think like with anything we'll get there, but I think like that's a long ways off, honestly. Or like, yeah, like these.
I
It's
thought you were
hard
gonna
to
say
build a company.
pens. I thought you were gonna say pens, right? Everybody's ragging on pens nowadays. You know, physically informed neural networks are sort of out of fashion now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but what does how does and you've already touched on this, but I wanted you to be able to nail put the nail on the board on how does high quality engineering data, particularly 3D data, become a real advantage for AI.
Yeah, the more data, the better. And it's more than just triangles. It's more than just BREP. It's more than just topology. But when you're able to look at the PMI and the relationships within assemblies and the metadata, so this is all encoded into our systems these days in our data and our files. And so making sure that you have access to that is really, really important.
Contextualization of the thing.
Yeah. And then back to the workflows, like being able to actually track the data back to, how is it and why was it built that way?
Of course. Well, design intent, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really huge field at the moment in terms of startups coming up with uh, interpreting and interpreting design intent is absolutely huge. Um, In terms of visualization collaboration, which is really one of the core values that you guys provide, engineering teams today, they include suppliers, manufacturers, service, procurement, even end customers. How has that changed the requirements for visualization in particular? Probably it's forced you to have really simple user interfaces because you're going to have a lot of people that aren't technical, right?
Yeah. And so we talk about engineering data throughout the enterprise. So not just on the designers, the engineers' desk, but throughout the enterprise. And we're trying to unlock that in a number of different ways. So we do that two ways. So our SpinFire set of products, those are end user products, allow you to have lightweight viewers on mobile, desktop, web, throughout your enterprise at a kind of a lower cost, but having rich data access. So we do that. That's super attractive to people. And then at the same time, which is interesting, we compete with our customers on the toolkit side of things. They're doing that in unique ways as well, and that's really important. So having it lightweight, having it streamable, having it on a mobile device or in a web portal is really, really important. People want that because it helps make informed decisions, and so
Yeah,
that
I
is
was actually about to
absolutely.
ask that question on how important are lightweight data formats. So,
Yeah.
very.
Yeah, I mean, the flavor of the format changes, right? So you can stream geometry. There are lightweight formats out there. There's lightweight representations. That's why USD is interesting. Kind of bringing it back to that is it can sit on a server and you can just request, let's say, the visualization data without all of the heavy metadata, and you can request that on demand. And so yeah, we do see a lot of opportunity there as well.
So, what roles do these web technologies for 3D now play compared to the way we used to just use desktop tools?
Collaboration, review. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. These connected environments. So teams, distributed teams, right? So we're global workforces. And so making sure that you just don't have it on the shop floor or in the floor of engineering, but you have to be able to have a connected system that spans continents as well and be able to collaborate in real time or be able to check in and provide feedback. And that's super important as well.
So, software vendors are increasing, excuse me. Well, I'm out of water. Oh well. Software vendors are increasingly wanting best of breed components rather than building everything themselves. Are you seeing that accelerate the fact that they're actually building with with external tools, or do you think that we still have this one stop shop kind of attitude?
Yeah, the build versus buy, I think is the term there. We actually have a ebook coming out pretty soon. Maybe we can share that.
Cool.
Yeah, we've done some research with Tech Clarity around that. There's a lot of
Ah,
reasons to
hi Jim.
drive. Sorry, the competition. Uh,
No,
but
it's
there's
not
a
a
lot of
competition.
reasons to
He's a
build
friend of mine.
versus buy. Um, you should not build data translation. I just letting you know that you should not build a solid modeling kernel. Um,
Mhm.
but you should build a UI. You should build a web portal. And in some ways, like graphics are kind of a commodity now, and we're kind of seeing that. Sometimes people will use our graphics. Sometimes they'll build their own graphics. The benefit of using components is they're integrated, and so like our graphics are very very focused on engineering data and navigating it. So there's some real benefits there. Um, but then buying an off-the-shelf product like our SpinFire viewers, it's quickly, you can deploy it quickly. They're secure. You don't have to maintain them. But when you buy something, they're not configurable. They might not fit your workflow completely. You might have a very specific workflow and intellectual property to the way in which you do design and manufacturing, which would require you to build. So it's like this either or. But some of those foundational components like data translation, solid modeling, graphics to some extent, simulation as well, simulation engines and accelerating simulation, like a lot of that stuff, you'd want to get a component for or just buy off the shelf. Like I'm
And
not going to go build ANSYS.
no.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there are people that are trying to,
Yeah, I
but
guess so. I guess so. There's always a exception to the case, isn't there? Yeah.
so how do you balance openness with protecting intellectual property? Which is an interesting question, right? Because that's, I think one of the pivotal moments in the CAD industry was when Chuck Grindstaff and Tony Afuso said, if we sell our kernel to everybody else, it's just going to make us work harder to make better software, because the differentiating factor will not be the kernel, it'll be the software around. So how do you guys balance that? Because you guys are also have an open toolkit, and yet you want to make sure that the best stuff is, people are coming back to tech software.
Yeah. We we're very open because we open up file formats to everybody. So that's like the first thing is we're in an openness enabler where you can read any CAD data for the most part and be able to access it within your application. So that's a big deal. We don't open source it. That's our intellectual property. So, those binaries are specific to TechSoft, but we are trying to facilitate openness because of that and provide it. The same thing is we will provide it to everybody. So we provide it same technology to Siemens as we do to So, as we do to Autodesk, as we do to the startup, to NTOP. Um, and so that's really important. We're not affiliated with any of those companies, which could, if you buy a component from them, they may revoke your privilege if you become too competitive. We are the Switzerland of CAD component technology, which is a great place to be, and have everybody benefit from that. There are some things like we open source our UI for web CAD viewing, our viewer there. So we find that that's really important, and we're always asking ourselves, like, this is a big question, is like, should we just start giving away some CAD translation for free? And just so that's like, it's an active topic of TechSoft, like trying to figure out, where can we continue to support the industry? Not all CAD translation, but kind of what areas, and supporting open standards. So open standards like IFC for building and construction, open standard there, STEP
Step for
for,
CAD.
yeah, for all of its kind of, it
When you
has
mentioned
multiple
QIF
flavors.
for the
Yep.
quality stuff.
Yeah. USD, JT, which is like pseudo open. So we support JT and partner with Siemens, who also kind of has this level playing field approach to components as well.
Thank you, CM PLM Components, our friends, Evan and company. Um, so what advice would you give to startups when they're in that, build versus buy kind of thing? I mean, your answer is obviously gonna be, well, when it comes to visualization, you come to us and you don't bother. Uh,
It depends. Like I said, visualization, you may be able to distinguish yourself there. Like I know we have like point cloud visualization, for instance. You might be like really good at that. Um, just do what you're good at, and then leave everything else foundational up to a component provider. So particularly data translation, solid modeling, mesh modeling, um, visualization to some extent. Honestly, what I would recommend if you're a startup, you have to create an MVP as fast as possible, right? You need to show a vision. And so don't go build a graphics engine, go use one off the shelf. And if you want to distinguish yourself in a unique way later, that's fine. But like, you need to create a product. And today with the way in which you can use a Copilot or other AI coding tools, like you don't pitch a PowerPoint deck anymore. You pitch an application. And so you build something. and you want to show it. And these SDKs allow you to do that incredibly quickly. And most of them have a certain evaluation phase or a startup program that allows you to use the technology and get funding. And then we can talk about how do we enter into a commercial agreement to use that technology.
Well, let me just tack onto that question. So um, how does it work in terms of your particular work with startups? How do you guys enable startups to add this the visualization stuff of TechSoft into their software without it becoming an additional burn on the limited amount of capital they have?
Yeah, we give a free evaluation, and then we also couple you with a content expert, an engineer, so engineer to engineer support to implement that as well and make you as
Cool.
successful as possible.
Very cool. Because I know you do have quite a few startups on the list that are
We do.
customers, which is great.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, I know it's kind of ridiculous. These questions are always 3 to 5 years, and we can't even look ahead 6 months anymore. But well, actually, I'll change the original question I was going to ask. Do you think we're going to see an open AI moment? I just had a call with two French startups about an hour and a half ago, Oplid and Cognex, and they were like really bullish. They think we're going to have an engineering open AI moment, certainly before 2030, maybe even before 2028. Um, what do you think about that? Do you think how close we are to before and an after in engineering? Because we certainly aren't there yet, right? We're still in the old world for the moment.
Yeah, I our industry just moves slowly. It just it just does. I would love to see that, but even some of these what you call startup unicorns, it's been a 5 to 7 year just grind for them.
Talking
Um,
about like the Intops or the
yeah,
well, or
yeah,
Collab or guys like that.
yeah, absolutely. So our industry moves slowly. Um, I don't I don't see a massive paradigm shift. So like for instance, um, uh, convergent modeling, which is tessellation plus topology or hybrid modeling, that was a big thing 10 years ago. And like we're just starting to see workflows adopt that. Like it's a good technology. And then with NTOP, what's their modeling kernel? Their
Implicit, implicits.
implicit. I mean, there's very unique good uses for all of these, but is it going to flip our industry upside down? And I just don't think so.
Uh,
Um,
I, I
it's
I wish I was going to be in Washington D.C. next week to see CD Fam because I don't know if you read about it, and the other people listening, someone hopefully will go to Washington next week and then tell us about it. But they're going to do a demo with 6 startups and one demo. Ntop is Starry Digital, Syskit, C Infinity, and I'm trying to remember the other two. And it's going to be apparently it's going to be pretty close to an OpenAI moment in terms of infinite design spaces and being able to do a requirements based design straight through, including all the security with air gaps. It's going to be, I think it's going to be kind of crazy. It just it's
well,
a long flight to America just for
yeah.
me from Paris anyway.
Well, let's go. Prove me wrong.
Yeah,
But I do
of
feel
course.
like things are happening faster than ever, and the rate of innovation and in our industry is feeling that, and that's going to continue. It's going to continue to accelerate. So that's absolutely true.
Okay, well, so if you were to imagine looking 3 to 5 years ahead, what changes do you think would be the most surprising looking back to software engineering?
Yeah,
Engineering, software engineering, sorry.
engineering software. Um, I mean, one thing that is, what's the next paradigm shift looking towards that? So, AI, we're riding that wave. We're still kind of, I feel, in its infancy there. So that's going to run its course. Absolutely. What I'm interested in the future, maybe even more than 5 years, is quantum computing and how that's going to impact our industry. Particularly,
Good question.
there's certain workflows that can be accelerated, particularly around simulation, right? And so that's a data heavy space and easily parallelizable. And so we barely have the compute power. We don't have the compute power yet at all, but that's going to be changing multiple industries. And I think ours as well. And so kind of what does that look like and how do we support that and what workflows can we migrate there?
I do have several startups, including BQP and
Mhm.
Quadrant, that are looking very
Yeah,
carefully. Quadrant just closed a massive funding round not even 2 months ago. I'll be seeing them in Helsinki. I'll be going to the Slush conference in November, so I'll be able to see some of my Finnish friends up there. If you were starting an engineering company today, where would you focus?
I think that's where I would focus.
Quantum?
I
You
think
just go
so.
there?
Yeah.
And which technologies do you think are still underestimated today? What opportunities are we missing? What rocks should we be looking under?
The glue between systems.
The digital thread?
Um, yeah, yeah, there's still opportunity there.
Um, so we're almost at the end of the questions. I wanted to ask, what's next for over the next 12 to 18 months? What can we expect from you guys?
Yeah, a doubling down of different tools that sit on top of Hoops AI. So being able to connect that to business intelligence is going to be really important. And then the release of our data hub technology that allows you to deploy
Oh yeah, that's
quickly
gonna be
at
cool.
enterprise scale through APIs, not file based, but API based data access.
And if nobody ever, someone that's listening has never evaluated your products before, where should they start?
Techsoft3D.com and navigate to any of our like evaluate now pages and we can set you up. Um, Download the product, get the learning material, get connected with our team. Like I said, we have a global team that's able to support you engineer to engineer. And that's something we really enjoy is being able to understand your problems and help you build solutions for those.
Awesome. Well, I've had a great time today. I appreciate
Super fun.
all the answers. Do you have any closing comments before we go to the audience?
No, things are happening faster than ever. That's really absolutely the case. Um, and it sounds like you got quite a big travel schedule. I am really enjoying connecting with people either virtually or in person. And I feel like in this very disconnected AI world, it's the personal connection that I'm really enjoying a lot more. So looking forward to seeing you and your listeners wherever we may be later this
Are
year.
you going to be at ITMS in
Yep,
Chicago?
absolutely. Yep,
I haven't decided on that one yet, but I do have Slush on the agenda. I want to do another threaded. I haven't figured out when or where yet. That's a work in progress. But we'll find. Well, maybe Chicago. Then that'll be fun. Has a beef sandwich and some beers.
pizza, deep dish pizza. Yeah, sounds good.
Before we go, actually, my friend Brian Carroll, who's a regular guest on my other podcast, is asking, what is your opinion about the profile that's forming, referred to as product memory? You probably see some of the debates on that with
Yeah, that's not something
Oleg and stuff.
I'm not too familiar with that, so I can't comment on that, unfortunately.
Sorry, Brian. It's okay. Well, it's been fantastic, and I'm looking forward to talking the next time when you guys have some big stuff to announce. And thank you to the audience for listening. Please feel free to contact Jonathan and go to the website. And we'll. I'm not sure how many more of these are going to do before the big summer break, so we might be seeing you in September. In any case, thank you, Jonathan. Say hi to
Great.
the whole
Thanks, Michael.
team, and we'll talk to you very soon. Have a great summer.
It's good. Thanks, guys.
Uh,